Welcome to the TMRN Time Monk Radio Network. I'm Jules, and today is Saturday, the 18th of June 2011. Today, during the third night of the ninth wave, we have the great Swedish thinker, researcher and author, Dr. Carl-Johan Calleman. Dr. Calleman's website is www.calleman.com. Carl, welcome to the WebBot Forum Roundtable.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be there.
It's a pleasure to talk to you too. The WebBot Forum administrator is Fox, and today he'll be doing the recording and technical support of the show. Several members of the forum were kind enough to join us tonight. They include members Lua, Peace for Gaia, Lenny, Gem D, and Five Cook. For listeners, this interview will assume you have a fairly good understanding of Dr. Calleman's work, including his research into the Mayan calendar and consciousness. There are many video interviews of Carl on YouTube, as well as great articles at his website, www.calleman.com. This interview will be available on YouTube for free on the WebBot Forum channel and at webbotforum.com. Dr. Calleman, are you ready for the interview, sir?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. First question we had for you, sir, is are you familiar with Cliff High and his forecasts?
Well, I wouldn't be. I'm familiar with the basic ideas that is behind all of this, but I would not be. You would have to fill me in on the specific predictions that he's making at this point.
Okay, you're familiar with the premise that everybody is psychic and they leak it out through their instincts and the words they use and the movements they make. And
it makes a lot of sense. The whole approach is very ingenious and very, it's a sign of our times, you might even say, that it sort of records, as far as I can understand, the subconscious of humanity or the psychic unknown abilities of us that maybe at this point is sort of developing rapidly also and coming to the surface in a way it's never been before.
Thank you. We have a first question from Lua.
Thank you. Carl, I understand that there are 5 different calendars that the Maya used, and that the pyramid calendar spanning the past 16.4 billion years is where you discovered the date of October 28th, 2011 as the end of that calendar. I have several questions relating to these various calendars. Were all of these calendars used to calculate the passage of time, and why are there different methods, different calendars within the same culture?
Yes. Well, it's a very big question, and I will just choose to address a few aspects of it. I'm not sure if I know exactly what you're referring to when you say 5 different calendars. It's a little bit arbitrary. I think that there is a calendar system that exists with a number of interconnected calendars. And these might have had different purposes. One is the Hab calendar, which is the 365-day calendar that's been used since time, what's it called, forever, basically. And it's just basically meant to reflect the solar year. Then there is the Tzolk'in calendar, which is a 260-day calendar. And it's quite different. It's not astronomical. And then there are the 9 waves, long waves, that are described and metaphorically shown in the pyramids of Tikal or many other places as well. So a number of small, I shouldn't say small, but in a sense much less famous, much less used calendars. There is the 819-day calendar. There is the 52-year calendar, and so forth.
Well, are they all basically parts of the same calendrical system, to determine the passage of time? Or are they being called calendars just because they cover a period of time? But might they be, like when I have read your books, what I have felt was that that your calendar on the pyramid period of time, the pyramid steps, was more like a historical chronicle rather than a calendar.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm a little bit confused about the use of the word calendar in relation to this, passage of time.
I think that's very understandable. And to begin with, when I've written my books, I have sort of selected calendars. I have selected those calendars that would have been for the most prophetic value for us living at the current time. So that's an important thing to know. If you want to give a complete overview of the entire Mayan calendar system and all the calendars that exist, it becomes very complicated. But it also would include such calendars that, in my view, has never been shown to be prophetic in the true meaning of the word, and maybe is not what we should focus on at this particular time. So it's I think it's important to know that I select those that seems to have this prophetic meaning, and it's very interesting that you're bringing this up, because the nature of these different calendars are so different. There are truly astronomical calendars that the Maya use. For instance, the Venus calendar, where they follow the four phases of Venus. That's really truly a astronomical calendar. Then there's the Hab calendar, which you might say is a pseudo-astronomical calendar, almost right, but not quite right of the solar year. Then there is the Tzolkin, which is really more like a matrix of divine energies that can only gets its meaning by connecting to other calendars, other periods of time. And then there are the waves, and the 9 waves, which the pyramid is a metaphor for. Mm-hmm. There are so big differences in their character, really, because these waves, you might say, I shouldn't say they're linear. A wave is not linear, but they're certainly directed. They're going from seed to mature fruit. And whereas the Tzolkin calendar is truly cyclical, and it's basically 260-day cycle that is being repeated over and over again. So it's a complex series of calendars that basically are interconnected, but they have different character, and I should say different purpose. And for us to make use of them, we will have to think a little bit about, and I think that's what I've been doing in my work, in how they relate to various processes and use them accordingly.
Okay. How did you determine the date, October 28th, 2011, how did you match that with the Gregorian calendar from the Mayan 9 waves? And do you know how the December 21st, 2012 date was determined, and how one date is different from the other date, and why?
Yes. Well, at this point, I think that there's been so much to verify the October 28th date that it's when I look back on how it was done, I'm quite amazed that it actually was done something like 15 years ago. You might say that that the December 21, 2012 date is the archaeologically correct date, but it's not the energetically correct date. And so I had to work with this a long time ago and find out what was the energetically correct date. And for somebody who's familiar with the 260-day Tzolkin count, it's almost like a red flag that the December 21 date is for Ahau, which is not. Why is it a red flag? Does it immediately signal that this cannot be the right date? Well, it's because it's for Ahau in the Tzolkin, in the sacred 260-day calendar, and for this reason, it's not the last day of the Tzolkin. And this means that it just becomes completely disharmonious as an end date. And I think that there's even been mathematical studies to show that whereas the October 28th date fits harmoniously in a mathematical sense with the 9 waves, this is not true for the December 21 date. So the question then really was at that point was, well, first of all, it was quite clear that the true end date, energetic end date of the calendar, that you can really look upon as a culmination of a long evolutionary process, that date had to be 13 Ahau, or 13 light, so to speak, in the sacred calendar. And this doesn't completely solve the question, when would it be? And part of the reason it's the December 21 date has become wrong is the fact that it was based on a local solar zenith in the location of Itzapa, where this calendar was originally designed. And but it's one of the things that I found is that the people of Palenque, which is more a classical site of the Maya, about 1,000 years later, maybe so, they are actually giving an indication that that tells us what is the right end date, you might say, and it was on those 2 pieces of information, you might say, that I derived the October 28th date.
Okay.
So the situation would be a little bit similar to if somebody became absolutely certain that Jesus was not born on Christmas Day, and had to find out what day was he actually born at. And then be faced with all this huge tradition of people saying, oh, he was born on December 25 because we've been celebrating Christmas for 1,000 years all over the planet, or at least in the whole world of Christianity. And then for me then to come up and say, no, he wasn't born on that day, and try to sort of change the date of celebrating his birthday to his actual birthday. So there's a lot of resistance. There has been a lot of resistance, but